now it is time for Anselm's Answers, starring Saint Anselm of Canterbury.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Anselm's Answers! This week, we're going to be discussing my thoughts, which was later turned into the ontological argument, a phrase used by one of my later guests, but you'll find that out later. Now, coming up is a contemporary of mine. His name is Galileo! So, you're here to argue against my points, which, frankly, I find baffling. What don't you understand about my theories?
Well, should we just begin with your definition? I think that's the
base
point.
That's a pretty good place to start. And for those of you at home that don't know my definition, it's something than which nothing greater can be conceived. And frankly, I don't see a problem with that.
Let me start this one. See, the problem is, Anselm, but I understand many things. I understand your definition, but it does not mean that it exists. I understand what a unicorn is, but does that make it exist? No, it does not make it exist.
Well, I think, Galileo, you're making a very slight error that is throwing you off completely. And that is, you don't know the distinction between something that's in your understanding and something that you understand in reality. Now, there's an important distinction, and you've already mentioned the unicorn. And that's in our understanding. We know what a unicorn is, but we understand in reality that it does not exist. However, a painter who is thinking about what he or she decides to draw already understands that image. And when it becomes on the paper, it is then in reality. And that's the distinction.
Quite frankly, with all due respect, that's rubbish. Okay? I believe that the very fact that I'm sitting here in the seat demonstrates that we have a different understanding of the meaning of God. Therefore, your argument completely fails. If I use the analogy of a perfect island is an island which cannot be thought of any greater. It is a perfect island. Therefore, it must exist, because if it didn't exist, it would not be perfect, okay? It would be ridiculous to think that this island exists, because we all have a different understanding of a perfect island. No two islands would be the same. Therefore, your argument with God is completely invalid, because no two people, in my opinion, or the majority of people, don't share this definition of God.
Well, as you can tell from my book, Proslogian, $12.99 in all good retailers.
So what are you waiting for? Get him now!
It's a joke.
It's just my thoughts. It's what I believe. I have faith in God, and I have faith in that definition, and therefore my thoughts are true to me. And someone who will agree with me to a certain extent is our next guest, and he is René Descartes! René, would you like to explain to this idiot what your ontological argument is all about?
Well, basically, my ontological argument is personal to me, so you may not understand it. I'm sure you will, but some guy over here probably won't. So, anyway, as I was saying, it's my theory, or argument really, is based on the quote. You know that very famous quote. I think, therefore I am.
Cogito ergo sum.
Yes. Or, of course, I think, therefore I am, for people who don't understand. So basically, I know I exist because I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you know you exist.
Yeah, because I can think. Yeah.
But do you know you exist? Because I think on the basis of this show so far, can you think? So, I began by questioning whether you can truly trust your senses. How do you know you're not dreaming? And how do you know you're not a brain jar?
Oh, what an excellent thought.
Yeah. Well, if you'd like to know any more, you can go and buy my book, Meditation, created in 1641.
Ah, and I still believe it's in the bestsellers, right?
It still is after all these years. Yes, I do believe. Yeah, just get it from any local retailer.
Rene Descartes' Meditations, New York Times bestseller, in stores now.
So anyway.
What is your argument? Come on, go.
Okay, alright. My argument. Split into two parts. The first part, I mentioned a triangle. Right. So I'm aware of the properties of a triangle.
Okay.
And even if triangles had never existed, they would still have these distinct characteristics, which are, of course, three sides, three angles. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Have I got you?
Yes.
Good. Right. Now I deny that I've come to know the nature of triangles through senses,
Okay.
as my senses would not derive the triangle's properties
Yeah.
as clearly and distinctly as, of course, my mind does.
Okay.
So that's the triangle argument. That comes into the first part.
Uh-huh.
Um,
How does that seek to prove God?
how does that seek to prove God? Because God is a supremely perfect being,
Okay.
as I say in my book. No. Because this proves that we know God through our mind rather than our senses.
Okay.
So therefore, it must, because we are imperfect beings and God is a supremely perfect being, it can only have come from God. So God must exist.
Right. Because we could not, as an imperfect being, create a perfect being. Is that what you're trying to say?
Exactly right.
Oh, fantastic.
We're imperfect, we cannot think of a perfect being, therefore the perfect being, which is God, must have implanted that into us. Knowledge.
Excellent. Galileo, have you got any interjections at all?
Yeah, I'd just like to
And that's all we've got time for today on Anselm's Answers. Join me next week where we're going to be discussing the cosmological argument. Thank you very much.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
Sexy lady, oh, my Gangnam Style. Sexy lady,